y'all. Welcome to the Honest to Goodness podcast,
where we give you our honest opinions
on good entertainment. I'm Morgan.
I'm Kerri.
I'm Nicole. And without further ado,
here's today's episode.
We hope you enjoy.
Hey y'all, welcome to the Honest to Goodness podcast, where we give you our honest opinions on good entertainment. I'm your host, Kerri, and I'm again joined by my lovely co-host, Nicole. Morgan wasn't able to make it tonight. She's not feeling good. We miss you, Morgan. We're praying for you. Hope you feel better soon. Y'all are getting me in all of my just got out of the shower, wet head, it's late, I want to go to bed glory right now, but we do have an exciting
topic. Totally unfiltered right now. I have no makeup on.
Hey, okay. At least I put a for real shirt on and not just a pajama shirt, okay? Like
I'm just going to quote Crystal here for the moment. This is our glow up for this episode. No makeup, not dressing
up. Listen, if y'all can be on our Instagram lives with our 3 o'clock in the morning delirium, I think you can handle this. Okay. I'm just saying, should not be an issue here. But anyway, we are going to be covering the third episode of season 1 of When Calls the Heart. I forget how good this is.
Oh my. Okay. Before we say anything, I'm probably going to repeat this when we get to it. But can we please, or can Hallmark please, they need awards for this episode.
Right?
Johanna needs an award. Dan needs an award. Aaron needs an award.
This episode was so good. So good.
Mammy needs an award.
Mm-hmm. How tiny she was.
I know.
And I mean, am I wrong, or is she in season 10?
I'm pretty sure she's in season 10.
I'm pretty sure. That one group photo that we saw, I'm pretty sure that was her. So I'm really curious to see that. But yes, just to see this whole thing and to watch Elizabeth run up to Jack and she's like just yammering a mile a minute. And he's like, okay. Big city folk talk a mile a minute. I'm just a country boy that needs to understand this.
I wrote that down. He's like, slow down.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to get to that later, but since we're here, we should already just go ahead and talk about it.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Watching the two of them, I feel like this episode is when you really start seeing the sparks flying between the two of them. Like it's been there, but this is where you start seeing it develop, in my opinion.
Yes. And can we just jump to the very beginning for a second? They are in a Sunday school service.
Oh, yeah.
Cat. And Jack walks up. And he sits down next to Elizabeth on the log or whatever they're sitting on. I think it's a log. And she's like, heathen. He's like, uncouth. And then I think she says, only heathens arrive late to a church service.
Only the uncouth whispered during a sermon. The way she shushed him.
Uncouth.
Oh, my word. Yes. And then Mr. Spurlock.
Yeah.
With Kat.
Yes.
And Elizabeth say, like, why does the company feel the need to send its spies to a church service?
Yeah.
He said, because clearly some people in this town don't trust each other, and it's my job to find out why.
It cuts to Henry, and he's in his office with the Reverend. What is his name?
Anderson, I think.
I think so. I think you're right. Reverend Anderson. And he's not happy that Kat is drawing a crowd for Sunday service instead of him. And then Jack meets Rip. So that's not his name at the time. We don't know what his name actually is. We don't know what the dog's name is. But
Mhm.
later on in the episode, when Jack walks in the jail, he says,
Well, if you're gonna move in, you're gonna need a name.
Prince Van Winkle.
Yeah. Oh, man. I love the fact that Jack just like didn't question whose dog it was or anything. He's just like, okay, I guess you're moving in. He just accepts it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yes. Oh man. Oh, and when Elizabeth goes to break up the fight between the boys and
She
she
holds
grabs
up.
the lunchpail, she learned her lesson.
Yes. Oh my
Oh
gosh.
man.
And
Wendell Backus.
yeah.
Oh man.
Let's just jump backward just a little bit
Mhm.
before we see Wendell. They're in class. The students are in
Mhm.
class, and Elizabeth is teaching a lesson about how people used to know when the workday had ended.
Mhm.
And she asks Rosaline if she knows. And of
Mhm.
course, Rosaline doesn't answer. She seems really sad, but we don't know why. I mean, we know she's sad about her father, but we don't
Right.
know everything that she's going through at the time.
Mhm.
And we learn that people used to tell time with sundials. Elizabeth tells Rosaline she can draw a picture instead if she's not writing all of her letters in words. And then, we meet Wendell later on. But before
Mhm.
that, the Reverend stops by to see Kat and brings poppy seed cake, which is Gabe's favorite.
Mhm.
Kat's husband loved hearing her play the piano, and it took his mind off of work.
Mhm.
And I thought this was a nice conversation, although kind of awkward at the same time
Mhm.
between Kat and Reverend Anderson.
Mhm.
He told Kat that ever since the mine disaster, he has felt the miners draw away from him. And after the explosion, Kat told the children of Coal Valley some stories to lift their hearts, and their parents
Mhm.
started to come too. I do like this line from Kat. She says, if you won't meet their needs, they will flock to someone who will. And if
Yeah.
they are getting any comfort from me, then I will not stop.
Mhm.
What did you think of Reverend Anderson in this episode?
At first, I don't really like him. Like, I remember having the same impression the first time I watched it. At first, I didn't really like him, and then I kind
Yeah.
of come to realize that he's actually not a bad guy.
Yeah.
That he's just kind of gotten his priorities out of line, and you see that when he
At the
turns
end.
in his resignation at the end of the episode, and is like, I hope these people will forgive me
Yeah.
and allow me to follow my calling of being their pastor. Um, I
Yeah.
think in a way his pride was hurt.
Yeah, a little bit. I think maybe that's why he was
Yeah.
acting that way.
Well, and he's got pressure on him from Henry for different things
Yes,
too. I think is
that
part
too.
of it as well. So I don't think it was any one thing, and I
Yeah.
don't think he was a bad person.
Yeah.
There were
I
those
just thought he was kind of on the odd side at first. I didn't
Mhm.
really understand him, but then at the end I understood.
Yeah.
I do love his line at the end, where God guides, God provides.
Mhm.
Amen.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, yeah, I love the fact that we see Rip coming in on this episode. So cute.
Yes.
Trying
The,
to think what was something else
the
that stood out
walk
to me.
with Elizabeth and Rosaline, and this is when we see
Mhm.
Wendell for the first time.
Mhm.
Molly has invited Elizabeth to dinner, and we hear this after Anna runs by and wants to play with Rosaline. And then after Anna runs away, goes back home, we see Wendell drive by in his wagon. And there's
Mhm.
something not right about him
Mhm.
because he looks at Rosaline looks at him, and there's just kind of an awkward, kind of worrisome moment there.
Mhm.
And of
I
course,
love that.
Elizabeth noticed.
Yeah, I love that Elizabeth like offers to race her home, like trying to distract her.
Yeah.
So,
Yes. I wish there were
Molly,
more teachers like Elizabeth.
yes, yes. Molly begging Elizabeth to
Oh
help
my
her daughter.
word.
You're 100% right. Johanna deserves an award for this episode. Like they really all do. This is one of the best episodes, in my opinion. Like,
Oh,
it was just so
oh my
good.
God.
But just the heartbreak portrayed in that. Because she not only lost her husband, she in a sense has lost her daughter.
Because Rosaline won't talk. She hasn't
Mhm.
talked since the mine disaster.
Well, and not only that, but she feels like a failure as a mother. Like she not only feels like she's lost her daughter, she also feels like a failure as a mother because she can't reach her daughter
Yeah.
when her daughter needs her the most. So, I mean, there is like just so much going on there for her. And but yeah, and then we see Elizabeth, I guess the next day at school when she gives them another assignment and she tells Rosaline that she can draw a picture of her favorite time of the day, pretty
Yeah.
much. But she's sitting there with Rosaline after class,
Yeah. It's after class.
trying to get her to open up and whatever. Rosaline like
Almost
just
done.
starts to draw on the paper, and Elizabeth's getting that little glimmer of hope, and
And
then
then,
in walks Wendell Backus.
yeah. And let's just back up a little bit, just a little history about Wendell from what Molly said. She says that he upsets everyone and has been known to haunt the saloon since the disaster. It's gotten worse,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't know why yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And let's see. Um, trying to find something in my notes.
Elizabeth trying to teach Rosaline that little game
That was so
with
sweet. Yeah.
Jack,
They
encouraging
used
her
to
to
be
eat her lunch and stuff.
they used to be
The,
called knuckle. What was it? Let's see. Knuckle bones.
yeah.
And then she starts to teach her how to play horse in the stable. And then they're interrupted by the two boys fighting.
Mm-hmm.
I love when she says, "Whatever happened, there will be no fisticuffs on my watch. This is no way to resolve a dispute."
I love when she's just like, call heads or tails. Like just runs off.
And then this is when Rosaline is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this is important. It's not related to Rosaline story, but we have to mention this because this is a big part of the next episode.
Yeah. Yes.
The Reverend stops by to talk to Jack.
Mm-hmm.
I like this little exchange here. He says that he was happy to see this hat ride into town, and Jack says, "I hope you haven't been too disappointed with the head under it."
Mm-hmm.
And I'm getting to the point, I promise.
No, you're good. You're good.
The Reverend brings up the church burning down. He thinks it's arson, and he mentions Kat and wants Jack to investigate. Now, he's not necessarily putting blame on Kat, but he has some thoughts that she could potentially be the cause.
Yeah.
So Jack, a little bit later on, he goes to the burn site.
And we found out that the church burned down the night that they had a vigil for 43 of the miners.
Yes. And he finds a can of something, but he doesn't know at first what it is. So he goes to the mercantile to talk to Ned and see if he knows. And right away, Ned smells the can and he's like, "That's whale oil."
I love what Jack's like, "Do you think you might know what this is?" And he was like, maybe whatever, it's a little, kind of a little burned up, whatever. And he's like, I'll take your best guess. And then Ned smells like, as well, really? That's my best guess.
Which is very rare
Mm-hmm.
to be, which at that time was pretty much extinct,
Mm-hmm.
like hardly being used anymore. So
Yeah.
if you had it, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
you had it in that town,
It's a little incriminating.
suspicious.
Yeah.
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 And let's see. Oh, I love this scene when Jack stops by to talk to Kat. Him seeing Emily playing the piano, the look on his face was so sweet. Oh my gosh. That little exchange was just adorable.
And him showing Gabe how to correctly salute. And yeah.
I think that's the right way.
Mm-hmm.
The
Yeah.
mounting salute, yeah. And then this is when we get the scene of Jack and Elizabeth, that we mentioned just a little while ago about city folk rattle a mile a minute.
Yeah. I love how he's just like, I'm just a country boy that needs to understand this.
So she understands, or so she explains, and then he says that he'll talk to Wendell. And Jack asks how old Rosaline is.
She's
before
only
that.
8.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. And then I guess it's the next day that Rosaline goes missing, isn't it?
I think so, yes.
And at this point, or it's fairly soon after that, whatever the exact time frame is. I'm getting tired and my eyes have literally just like gone wonky on me. That's why I'm like, okay.
So Elizabeth, she finds out that Rosaline is gone, I think the next day. And then
but the Reverend is there to talk to Jack
the
again.
jail. Yes.
Yeah.
He stops by
And
I'm
that's
happy with my pace.
That's when Jack is like trying to get Rip to fetch the ball.
Bad timing. Because the ball rolls under Reverend Anderson's foot. And he's like, I'm questioning the pace of your investigation. And he's like, my pace.
Yeah. Oh, man.
And this is when Elizabeth runs in and is all concerned about Rosaline, which as she should.
Yeah.
And, she tells him about Wendell again, how she, or how he, sorry. Let me correct myself.
She saw him driving through town, and the next thing she knew, Rosaline's gone.
Yeah, and how she told him about Wendell and how concerning his situation could be.
I love the fact that even Reverend Anderson at that point kind of put his own problems aside and was just like, yeah, what can I do?
Yeah. And Jack tells him start knocking on doors on Main Street. This scene, Daniel, listen, that is all I have to say. Oh, my word.
Am I the only one that sees some correlation between this scene and the scene in season?
I think it was 8.
8? Was it when Nathan pins Dylan up against the wall?
Yeah, yes. That is all I have to say. Daniel, listen. His acting in this scene.
That man acts with his eyes so much. Like he does so much just with his eyes.
Oh my word.
Wow.
He holds him against the wall, Wendell. He holds Wendell against the wall. I have the line written down. I'm just gonna read it because the way he delivers it is perfection. Perfection. He says, if I find out that little girl's missing because of something you've done, I will personally see to it that you are locked away in Medicine Hat Prison, shackled to the wall of a stone cold cell for the rest of your miserable life.
Mm-hmm.
And then Wendell says something, and Jack says, your eyes are telling me a different story. And Wendell goes on to kind of give his testimony.
Mm-hmm.
And he claims he raised his hand to Rosaline when he started to talk to her and she didn't respond, but he never hit her.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, I put the fear of God in her that day. And Jack corrects him and he says, Jack corrects him and he says, you put the fear of a very flawed man in her, not God. This moment kind of breaks my heart for Wendell a little. This moment kind of breaks my heart for Wendell because we find out he was sick the day of the disaster.
Mm-hmm.
So his friend went in his place and he's been living with guilt and basically trying to drink himself to death.
Mm-hmm. I love how Jack kind of softens towards him in that moment.
Yeah, he says maybe you were spared for a reason and it's not too late to do something good with your life or something along those lines.
Something along those lines, yeah. Yeah, very, very powerful moment.
That scene, I swear,
Mm-hmm.
10 needs an award for that.
100%, yeah. But yeah, that episode or that scene, and then all of them searching. The fact that Wendell turns up to help with the search.
I love that.
Mm-hmm. And like the Pinkards are out there searching. Like, literally everybody is out there searching. And, I mean, Jack even told Elizabeth, like, he went to the school and he was like, you know, most Coal Valley kids can look out for themselves, but from what you told me about Rosaline, she's like, we need an all-out search. He's like, yeah, I think you're right. So I mean, like, literally everybody is out looking for her.
I loved how Wendell showed up.
Mm-hmm.
Help.
Yeah.
And Elizabeth goes to the school and finds Rosaline's drawing. And the drawing is of her basically standing at the entrance to the mine with something over her head. I guess it's her lunch pail. Or I'm not really sure what it is. I think it's a lunch pail, but something is drawn over her head. So Elizabeth puts the pieces together and she finds her eventually in the mine. This is where the tears start. I start to lose it right here. When she finds that drawing, that's Elizabeth is very brave for doing that. I don't know that I could do that. Walk in a pitch black, dark mine. Oh my goodness. And this scene with Elizabeth and Rosaline, I am a bucket of tears every time.
Yeah, to hear Rosaline finally start to speak and to just say, I never brought him his lunch. That day that, you know, the day of the mine disaster, she always brought her dad his lunch every day. And that day Anna had asked her to play and she wanted to play, so she didn't bring him his lunch. And that maybe if she had brought him his lunch, he wouldn't have been in the mine and, you know, whatever. And Elizabeth is just like, this is not your fault. And Rosaline's like, what's mommy going to say when she finds out I didn't bring him his lunch? And she's like, she is going to tell you that she loves you more than anything in this world.
I'm almost crying right now.
Yeah, the emotion in that. And she's just like, this is not your fault. And yeah, so when Elizabeth brings Rosaline back to town, and of course Molly is, you know, just in pieces trying to find her daughter, and she all of a sudden hears a voice she has not heard in probably a couple of months at least. I don't remember the time frame honestly, but
I think it was I think
3 months or so, 3 or 4 months at this point.
episode 1, I think they said 3 months, but I could be
Okay.
wrong.
So this would be roughly 3 to 4 months in that time frame that she hears her little girl calling out to her.
I'm about to
And
start crying again.
yeah, the
Oh,
looks on everybody's faces, but I love the look on Jack's face
yes.
when he rides up. The look between him and Elizabeth right there.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
One of my favorite Jack and Elizabeth looks.
100%. Yeah. But can we also just talk about the following scene where Jack like is coming downstairs, Elizabeth's teaching, and
Before that, I do have to mention a favorite quote from this episode, and it
Mhm.
is right at the end of the scene when Molly is reunited with
Mhm.
Rosaline, and it's from Elizabeth, and I guess she's writing in her journal. And
Oh
she
yeah.
the light of
Yes.
love restores every
Restores every
lost
lost
boy.
voice. Yeah. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, that was such a beautiful, beautiful quote. But when Jack comes downstairs and Elizabeth's teaching the class and she's teaching them some Latin, and what is it, Sol Omnibus Luce?
Yeah.
I
Or
think was yeah. I think that was the one at the time.
Lucet, yeah,
Um
Lucet or something. I think
yeah.
I haven't taken Latin since 8th grade, so
Um but when Rosaline gets to guess that soul means son, and of course everybody's so excited, she gets a round of applause, and Elizabeth tells them to go.
Jack's face.
I know.
My heart is a puddle.
I know. So when when Elizabeth dismisses all the kids, and Jack walks over to Elizabeth and he's like, that was a wonderful lesson, and she thanks him,
I
whatever.
love
And
this.
he's like, I owe you an apology. And she's like, for what? And he's like, for jumping to conclusions about your character when you first came to town. Or she says something, and he was like, oh, like yesterday, once again, you proved me arrow.
Which is
And
mistaken.
yeah. And she's like, oh, the Latin word for mistaken.
Yeah.
And she's like, you know Latin, do you? And he's like, a little.
And then
For
he
instance, Bella, which of course means beautiful.
beautiful.
And she's just like, oh. And he's like, did I say that correctly? She's like, I believe you did. And he's like, there's also what was it? Parchesi? Or something like that.
Parchesi? I think I said that right.
Yeah. She's like, I'm afraid I don't know that one. Also, why are you whispering? And he just kind of grins and steps real close, and he whispers, and he's like, it means wake up. And then he just grins at her and walks out, and you can see she's so confused until she sees one of her students.
James.
Asleep on the desk.
James. And she's like, I think that was the first scary but not so scary teacher face.
Right? Yeah.
Not really scary teacher face, but
yeah. Oh my word. So cute. Yes. Yeah, I feel like this is the episode that you kind of see their relationship start to bud. Like you can see the sparks there from first, but this is when you start seeing the interest there.
Yes, I agree. And then it kind of maybe dwindles a little bit with this next episode, which we'll get to, because he blames someone she's friends with for something she didn't necessarily do.
Let's just say Jack finds some evidence in a spot that he was not expecting to find it.
Okay, let's just talk about that cliffhanger for a second, because that's the next episode. That's where the next episode picks up. So Jack, let's see. Okay, we already talked about the scene with Henry and Reverend Anderson. So yes, Jack takes the coal caddy back to Kat's, which he had borrowed for the jail. And, he sees Gabe, and Gabe does his little mouthy salute again. And then he briefly talks to Kat. And then he goes into the shed and he finds candles along with some of the whale oil burned down the church in the shed.
The look on Jack's face, like he looked so heartbroken in that moment. Like he did not want to believe this.
When you first watched this episode, what were your thoughts on that? I remember the first time I watched, I was like, oh my word.
I couldn't believe it. Like I was just like, there's no way. But I mean,
I
the
was
evidence
like,
was there, but it was just like, there's no way this is her. Like, oh man.
Yeah. I remember watching this one for the first time, and I don't remember if it was, I don't know if I had already, I don't know if I had started watching season 1 late into the night. I don't know what time I started watching season 1, whatever day I started. So I don't know if it was in the wee hours of the morning when I watched episode 3. But I remember I remember very clearly, I was like, no, I'm not waiting till the next day to watch this next episode. I was like, next.
Yeah, that is a cliffhanger episode, that's for sure. Especially for that early in the season. Like, whoa.
Yeah. When I was watching, this was at the point when it was on Netflix and you could just literally binge. And I was like, nope. I'm not going to sleep until I watch the next episode. Nope.
Yeah. I'm very much enjoying going back and rewatching this first season. Like, this has been amazing.
Yes, I agree. Season 2, especially. I'm glad I didn't have to wait between season 2 and 3. I could just, after season 2, that first time I watched the season 2 finale with that proposal from Charles, I was like, no way in heck am I waiting until morning to watch the next episode.
This crazy show has put us all in therapy, okay? Like, I mean, I'm just saying.
Oh my god.
Or we need therapy after it.
Oh
anyway, it's good though. It is so good.
Yeah.
So
well. I give props to all the Hardys who have been OG Hardys who have watched from the beginning, because I can't even imagine what they went through with that weight.
Right? Ugh. I'm pretty sure I started watching it when the season 1 DVDs started coming out.
I was a very late to the game Hardy. Very late to the game.
Yeah.
Halfway through season 4 is when I started watching live.
Yeah.
I think I wanted to watch. Actually, I think I started watching right after the proposal episode. So my heart will go on. And I was like, I kept seeing my friends post about it, and I kept seeing it from Hallmark. And I was like, what is this show? Because I need to watch it. Yeah. And now being a teacher, well, of course, I didn't really know a whole lot about the show, but
yeah.
I mean, from previews, I could tell it was a Mountie and the love story was between a Mountie and a teacher. And I was like, what is this show? I need to watch it. I think it took me, I was bound and determined to watch the second half of season 4 live. So I think I binged seasons 1 through half of season 4, like the first half of season 4, within a week. That's how long it took me.
I can believe it. Oh man. Is there anything else we want to say about this episode? I mean, I think we're both just kind of blown away by this episode. Even going back and rewatching it is so good.
Yes,
So
whether I've been thinking like whether we do it on Honest to Goodness or on Swing My Heart, we need to do an episode about the top 10 When It Calls the Heart episodes of the series.
That's going to be hard to narrow down, but this one I think will definitely make the list.
Yeah, this one is definitely up there.
Yeah.
And probably, in my opinion, not just of the series, but one of the best episodes in TV.
Yeah. Yeah. This one's very, very good. Very good.
Yeah. Cinematography, the acting, the writing, everything.
Yeah. And one of the very few episodes early on that Abigail wasn't in.
Yeah, that's right. Missed Abigail on this episode, but I think she's back for episode 4.
Yeah. All right. Well, we will be back soon, continuing our recap of season 1. And thank you guys for listening and putting up with our little bit of scatteredness here. But honestly, I think we were a little more put together than we are a lot of nights. So,
yeah.
Anyway, we're good.
We're cruising through season 1.
We are. All right. We love you guys, and we'll be back again soon. Bye.
Bye.